Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Welcome to Crazy Eights, the place to stuff your face. What can I get you?
Hey, Cecil.
Oh, hey, Aaron. You want your usual?
No, actually, I can't come here anymore, Cecil.
What? Why?
I saw a cow.
Okay.
I mean, we took our kids on a field trip to a farm, right? And I saw an actual cow. I can't eat here anymore.
I don't understand.
I mean, cows are adorable. They have these big, soulful eyes and gentle dispositions. I mean, one of them was even named Bo.
So you can't eat here because you don't want to eat a cow?
Yes, exactly, Cecil. I just can't stomach it. I mean, I don't want to sound ungrateful. I really appreciate the service you all have provided me over the years, but I just wanted to stop by and tell you that I just can't.
You know we also have chicken sandwiches, right?
Oh, well, all right then. I'll try one of those.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the WorryFree Retirement, with your host, best-selling author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
Have you ever expected one thing to happen, yet something totally opposite occurs? It could be something very simple, and based on seeing something happen in the past, you just assume that the same result will occur. Yet, for some strange reason, the very thing you expected to happen does not. Webster's dictionary defines expect as follows: to consider probable or certain things that will happen or improve, to anticipate or look forward to the coming or occurrence of something in mind. For instance, if I were to drop a brick from the roof of a 3-story building, I would expect that brick to fall to the ground very quickly. And if one by one I dropped 20 more bricks off of the same rooftop of the same weight and size, I would expect the same thing to happen. All would fall to the ground the same way. Now, if all of a sudden, while one of the bricks was descending to the ground and an innocent bystander happens to be walking in its path, well, this will happen. Not what you'd expect, right? You see, the problem with expectations is that sometimes what we expect to happen or occur as a result of our thinking of our actions may turn out much different than we had hoped. Not only is this true in daily living, but it is true in the world of planning for retirement. Time and time again, I see savers expecting certain things in retirement that are actually false expectations of what they will need and how much they can spend of the money they have worked so hard to save. Problem is, most savers I encounter have no clue as to what they will need and who to trust with the expectations that they have learned. But I have some really good news for you today. What you're going to learn today is that in most cases, listen closely, you will need a whole lot less money to retire than you think. Well, welcome folks to the WorryFree Retirement, and yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, expectations specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker. And before we get started, let me introduce another person you expect to produce this show each and every week. America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander, along with our technical director, Mr. Derek Hudson. Okay, know this. In my 36 years in meeting with thousands and thousands of savers, the two reasons, listen closely, the two reasons savers worry so much about retirement is as follows. Number one, they really don't know what to expect in retirement. And number two, they don't have a retirement specialist in their corner who does. Well, let me repeat that. First, more than likely, you sitting there right now may not have a clue how much money you're going to need to live on in retirement and what this whole retirement thing will look like as you grow older, which leads to the second reason most savers needlessly worry. And that's due to the fact that they have been given false expectations of what retirement will look like by those professing to know something about it. That's because, quite frankly, many in the financial world who are trying to tell you what to do and how to plan for retirement do not know the mind of the saver and exactly what you will need to be worry-free. Well, guess what? I do. So when I return, I'm going to prove to you that creating a worry-free retirement is easier than you think and why you won't need as much money in retirement. I'm Tony Walker. You stay tuned. I'll be right back. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. Our Live Well, Die Broke moment comes to us from Patty and Nathan Coleman, who live in Indiana. But on this day, we're visiting Colorado. Beautiful shot of Colorado. Thank you so much for sending your picture in. And by the way, if you'd like to send your photo to us at Gina@TonyWalkerFinancial.com and enter into a chance to win a random drawing for a $100 gift certificate. Oh, speaking of states to live in and visit, since this is a retirement planning show, which of these states, little pop quiz here for you, do you think would be the most expensive to live in? Now listen closely from a taxation perspective, all right? Would it be California? Would it be Illinois, New York, or Nebraska? Well, what if I told you the most expensive state to live in according to wealthmanagement.com for taxation purposes is Nebraska? Didn't expect that one, did you? Well, anyway, my attempts to keep things simple for my clients and prospective clients, one of the biggest challenges is how do I help a saver clarify their vision in such a way as they will know what to expect? I mean, how do I help them answer the biggest question of their lives, and that is when and if they can retire, and if they're going to do so, how's this 401k going to work? Well, to help us answer this question and to provide you a tool that you can use, let me share a little exercise I learned from one of my mentors, the founder of Strategic Coach, a gentleman by the name of Mr. Dan Sullivan, and he calls this exercise the R factor. Now, you might want to get you a pencil and paper handy, take some notes. I'm not going to go through an entire exercise, but this is going to help you lay out your realistic expectations when you head out on this journey we call retirement. The first thing we do in the R factor is we ask a question, and the question poses the fact that we're way into the future and we're looking back. We're trying to understand the expectations. So in this example, you would fill in the number of years, whatever you want to put there, but you would say over the next however many years, 10 years, 20, whatever you want to put, what has to have happened for you to feel like the effort you made towards retirement and the things you enjoyed would lead you to believe that you had, see we're going back now, had a successful retirement. And then what I would do is I would help you lay out those goals or that vision of what would that have looked like. See where I'm going with this? It's a really cool exercise. Well then, as we cast that vision, the next thing we do is something Mr. Sullivan referred to as DOS. Thomas Edison used to use another situation or used to use another methodology. A lot of people do different things. Mr. Sullivan calls it DOS, which stands for dangers, opportunities, and strengths. So what we're trying to do here when I'm meeting with people through my training, I'm trying to set up the goal, trying to understand what it is you want, not what I want or the financial world wants. And then I'm trying to help you identify dangers to that vision, opportunities you may not be taking advantage of that I see for you, and particular strengths. So I'm going to segue into this. Now, my grandfather, Bill Harden, would have never had to do this because grandfather Bill Harden worked with Bell South all of his life. And his life was really simple. Just to show you how easy and simple Granddad had back in his day, I hold in my hot little hands Granddad's actual paycheck stub from Bell South in 1965. Folks, look how simple this is. And what I'm getting ready to show you as we dive in and take a deeper look at this is how can we make Granddad's simple retirement just as simple for you. So Derek, if you could, let's kind of look at the big picture here. Look at this. This is really incredible. Notice that he only had a few deductions. Federal taxes, state. I didn't see FICA on there for some reason. City license, he put in $2 a week to his credit union, $1 into U.S. savings bonds per week. But look at the net effect. He still had $319 to live on. Now, why is this important? Because Granddad knew exactly what he had coming in. So when he retired in 1978, when he got his beloved mailbox money, that would be his pension and Social Security, he just had to have enough money to cover what he was used to taking home. Unfortunately, it's not that simple for you. Let's look at a modern day paycheck. Oh my gosh, look at this thing. Folks, this is why you have no clue how much you're going to need in retirement, because you don't understand the gross versus the net because of all these darn deductions coming out of your paycheck. Take a look at this. The gross amount on this particular paycheck, that means the amount of money they're making, their salary is $3,800 a month, let's call it. I'm not sure if this was biweekly, it doesn't matter. Look at all the darn deductions. All of these deductions Granddad did not have, which in this case total $2,000, all right? That means you have a net left over of $1,800. So here's the point, folks. You're not going to have all of these deductions when you retire. In fact, let's just take a look at some of these. More than likely, if you've had a properly trained retirement specialist helping you, for instance, you're probably not going to have supplemental AD&D, dental, health savings accounts. You're not going to be contributing to those. You're retired. LTD, that's long-term disability, maybe vision, fitness, I don't know, you might have that. Taxable life insurance, the federal withholding should come down a little bit. I didn't see, there you go, there's a loan on a 401k, that's a deduction. You won't be contributing to a 401k. So the point is, folks, when you start out doing retirement planning, you have to understand the difference between gross and net. So what I'm going to do, when I come back, I'm going to show you what actually happens when you retire, what happens to that paycheck, and how we at Tony Walker Financial are going to prove to you that you'll need a whole lot less money than you think. Good stuff coming your way. You stay tuned. You're watching the Worry-Free Retirement. With the stock market at all-time highs and our nation's debt through the roof, there's a lot of uncertainty out there. Now may be the best time to safeguard more of your 401k. Let's get started today by logging on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. I am Tony Walker, and our theme today is, what did you expect? So as we think about things like that, we're going to get into this in just a minute, and paychecks and what are you going to need for retirement. I want to cover an important Tony in the trenches. This question's a doozy, and I'm going to cover it in a lot of detail next week, but it comes from a gentleman over in Lexington by the name of Dave. Dave asked, Tony, with the recent $1.9 trillion stimulus passed, remember there was a stimulus passed in 2020, as we record this show on March 10th, 2021, here's another one, almost $2 trillion. He says, the stimulus passed by Congress, please explain to me why the stock market keeps going up and what this might mean for me and how much money I will actually have in the future. Well, Dave, again, I'll answer this question in detail. Let me answer that question with something most people don't understand. It's called the golden rule of the money game. And here's the golden rule of the money game. Those who make the rules get the gold. I'm not going to tell you more than that. Basically, next week you'll have to watch the show, but I'm going to lay it out for you so you can understand what this stimulus money that's getting injected into our economy has to do with you and your money, and all the more reason why you better have a game plan to use and enjoy this money while you still can. Okay, in our last segment, we talked about paychecks and stubs and deductions and how Granddad had it so simple. And what you've been led to believe, folks, is that when you get into retirement, this stuff has to continue to be very complicated, and nothing could be further from the truth. So let's come over to the whiteboard. Again, keep it in mind our theme. Most savers who come to me, again, really don't know what to expect in retirement. This is a whole new game plan. They don't know what to do with their money. They're used to all these deductions coming out of their paycheck. And so we want to know, okay, Tony, what should I expect? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to slow it down here, and I'm going to imagine that you are in pre-retirement mode. In other words, you're still working full-time somewhere, and you have no clue how to figure out what you're going to need to live comfortably on in retirement. Well, first of all, remember the income that you show, okay, is a gross versus net. We covered that in the last segment. The gross amount is what your salary is. Let's say that's $100,000 a year. The net amount is the amount of all these deductions taking out and then what's left in your pocket to spend. And as we saw, that can be a doozy. So what could possibly happen when you retire? Well, currently the federal taxes, depending on your income, because you're making that much, they may be as much as 12 to 15%. State taxes are a set amount of 5%. You could have all kinds of different taxes while you're working, occupational taxes, all kinds of withholdings, which could be another 5%. Savings. My granddad was putting in $2 per paycheck to savings, $1 to savings bonds, but you might be doing the same thing. You might be putting, $200 a month into a credit union or something. Oh, here's a biggie, a big deduction. 401k contributions. I've got some people putting in, 18% of their pay. If you took 18% of $100,000 gross, that's $18,000 a year that isn't going in your pocket. Now, I'm not saying don't do the 401k. I'm just trying to help you understand, and you'll see in a minute, when you retire, you're not going to need to save any money. You see where I'm going with this? The next thing would be work-related. I know of people that drive a long way to work each day, 30, 40, 50 miles or more. Well, when you're retired, that amount of money spent at work, maybe you have to dress up a lot at work. I guess one consolation of the pandemic, you can sit home and work in your pajamas, I guess, but normally people have to buy clothes to go to work. That would be an expense. Maybe they have to eat lunch out a lot. So there's a lot of work-related expenses that could drop off when you retire. And then finally, debt service. Next week, when I relate this whole issue with the Fed stimulus and what that has to do with housing and free money and low interest rates, you're going to see why for savers, now I'm talking about savers, not investors and speculators, to try to get all of the debt paid off as best you can, yes, even your home before you retire, man, that's really going to help with what I call your cash flow. So let's just kind of slide over here. So now all of a sudden, you retire, okay? The income gross was maybe 100. We may only need 50,000 gross. And you say, well, Tony, wait a minute, you said 100 down to 50. Now, again, it's different for different people. Oh, incidentally, we talked about all these states like New York and Illinois and California and even Nebraska. They are very expensive states to live in, apparently, but, that's the good thing about Kentucky, Indiana, most of the folks watching this show. It's not really a real high cost of living to live here, which helps, okay? We're not talking about New York City here or Manhattan.
This stuff's made in New York City? New York City? Get a rope.
The federal taxes in this case, we know they could drop some more if we drop that gross income, plus some of your Social Security isn't taxed, so less federal taxes. Depending on your retirement income, you may not have any state taxes. That's right, depending on the amount of income coming out of qualified assets, no state. Usually very little occupational taxes. Those are generally charged against a paycheck. We don't have a paycheck anymore. Savings, you had $200 a month going to savings. Why would you do that? We're not trying to save any money. We're trying to use and enjoy our money while we can. You don't have 18% coming out to a 401k. Again, we're not trying to save for retirement. You are retired at this point. Work-related, well, whatever expenses you had up there, no more work-related stuff. And assuming we can get that debt knocked out, and I'll help you figure out how to do this, think about that. Can you imagine in a perfect world, this isn't realistic for everybody, but in a perfect world, if you had no house payment, no car payment, no credit card debt, the amount of money we would need to produce as your retirement specialist goes way, way down, and the pressure goes down as well. So folks, if you thought retiring took hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars in a 401k, assuming you live in Kentucky or Indiana and you live basically a basic lifestyle where you just want to use and enjoy the money, if you're a saver, let us help you show you how much money you really need in retirement. And you know what? After we do an assessment, you'll probably be more surprised than you think. In other words, it's not going to take as much money to retire as you first thought. So why don't you do this? Why don't you log on right now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, click on the Let's Get Started. We can have a free 10-minute fiduciary phone call, or if it warrants, I will personally meet with you in our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. Do it now. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call the toll-free number on your screen. Well, what does the Bible have to say about expectations and things that we look forward to doing, and even our faith in what God says He's going to do? Some good stuff coming your way. If you don't mind, let me grab a cup of coffee. I'll be right back. Wondering how much money you'll need to retire? Probably a lot less than you think. I'm retirement specialist Tony Walker, and for the past 36 years, I've helped thousands of savers determine when to retire and how much money they'll need in retirement, and I can help you too. To meet in person at no cost or obligation, let me invite you to log on right now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call the toll-free number on your screen. We look forward to talking with you soon. Our topic today deals with expectations we have about something turning out the way we think it will. In Christian circles, many preach and teach that if we expect good things to happen, in other words, if we will simply believe and do what others tell us to do, that we should all live in perfect harmony with the world, with God, and of course never worry again. Yet if we do stray from that teaching and don't do as others tell us to do, we are doomed for failure. I call this faulty teaching the guilt trip gospel. Now, a very popular book about this notion of always expecting the best is a book called Your Best Life Now. And while I must admit I have never read its contents, the title alone conjures up the notion that if we just believe, life will be wonderful. But there's a problem with just believing that my best life is now, and that's something we call reality. You see, in the real world, no one, no matter how much we expect things to turn out in our favor, no matter what we do, the Bible teaches this, and it's very clear that the longer we're here on planet Earth, the more likely life will throw us a curveball, a tragedy, a setback, a disappointment. In other words, you cannot avoid such things, and in the midst of them, our faith in God can certainly be shaken. Of course, this leads us to the conclusion that this is certainly not always our best life now. So what is faith, and how can we remain steadfast in knowing that whatever we might be going through, it is of God and it is in our best interest? Well, let's first get on the same page with the definition of faith, which is found in Hebrews 11:1, which simply says, faith is the assurance of things hoped for, I might say the things we expect or would like to happen, the conviction of things not seen. You know what's interesting about this definition is that there is nothing based on what we can see. Hope is an expectation of some future event which has not yet occurred, and then conviction is merely the confidence we have in that something happening in the future. It makes no sense at all when you think about it until you slide on down to verse 3 where God reminds us. He says, by faith, we understand that the worlds were prepared by the Word of God so that what is seen was not made out of things which are visible. Take the Grand Canyon, for instance, which you can walk up to this massive canyon's ledge, which I have, and you see the wondrous glory of it all. Your expectation is that there is no way that this thing just formed out of the blue. God had to have done this, which upon seeing it, or shall I say experiencing it, confirms that our faith in God to accomplish what He intends to accomplish is real. Our faith and the expectation of what God might do is based on the things He has already done. You know what though? Nevertheless, with all the faith that I have in God, I for one have from time to time created many false expectations in my own life, things of my own doing, or what I think should happen and how God should let these things play out. If I might, I'm going to share one of these things in action. Take a look at me here riding around in my Lexus back in 2002, supplied with coat and tie. This was something I pulled off. It was an idea I had in my mind called the Money Missionary. This was going to be a 30-minute pilot TV show where basically I followed around a couple and their kids and tried to see what they were spending money on. And I had great hopes for this show. But what I'm going to do is walk over to the whiteboard. Let me show you what actually happened and how something Mr. Dan Sullivan, who we talked about in Strategic Coach, calls strategic byproducts. So in 2002, when I started filming and taping The Money Missionary, I really thought this could be a huge hit on TV. So what I did was I flew to Florida to participate in what was called the Religious Broadcasters Meeting. Thousands of people were in attendance, and I took my little DVDs down of the pilot of this TV show, hoping to hawk it to somebody to buy it. So I take off on this journey, And off I go. And at the very end of the conference, nobody's interested in this little TV show I've come up with. I'm sitting in the lobby getting ready to take the shuttle back to the airplane. I meet a nice young lady who's been there. She's a publicist. I learn what she does, and all of a sudden I said, you know what? I got this TV show I'm trying to get off the ground that ain't going anywhere. Do you mind taking a look at this book I just wrote called The Worry-Free Retirement? Which she did. Her name was Helen Cook, so it took a little different journey. Again, I'm trying to end up with a TV show, and that's not going anywhere. When it takes that different turn, this is what Mr. Sullivan, Strategic Byproducts, Mr. Sullivan calls strategic byproducts. So the original goal I had took a different path, but I ran with it. So the key is, folks, when you're doing anything, sometimes you have to run with the course God has got you on. Don't stop, don't give up. And what happened was, Miss Cook got me television gigs all over the country touting this book. And I asked her, I said, how come I'm not in Louisville, Kentucky? I had a TV show then called Your Money Matters. And she said, well, I'll get you on one of the stations there. So this took a couple of years, folks. So I won't name the station, but in 2007, so this was a 5-year journey. In 2007, a very large television station in Louisville, Kentucky had me on their show to talk about the book. It was a live call-in show. The calls were crazy. The amount of calls coming in were crazy. So in 2007, I worked out a deal to be their retirement specialist, and this lasted for 7 years, and that helped perpetuate a lot of the growth that we have now experienced as of 2021 as we record this show in Louisville, Kentucky. So you're saying, well, Tony, what's the point here? The point is, folks, that I couldn't see what really God had in store for me. Apparently, it sure wasn't to come up with a reality TV show, but the journey I went on to embark to try to get the TV show off the ground took another turn, and that other turn, I believe in my heart, was really the journey I was supposed to be on, which was to promote the Worry-Free Retirement, get on television in Louisville, and since that time, of course, the rest is history, where we have hundreds and hundreds of clients, full-time staff, a full production studio right here in Louisville. So I'm very, very thankful for that. So you might be saying, okay, Tony, wait a minute, what does this have to do with my money? Well, folks, that's the point. You are starting here with your money. It doesn't matter whether you're retired, nearing retirement, or you're 80 years of age. The point is, where are you trying to end up with this money? You see, the problem is most of the financial world could care less what you really want to do with this money. The goal of the financial world, remember, the golden rule is to simply hold on to your money. Other people are going to want to make money on your money, and then they're going to throw you a bone in return. Well, that doesn't sound like something you want to do with your money. If you want to use and enjoy this money while you still can, if you want to set up a game plan, something that's simple and easy to understand that allows you to get your money out, to not run out of money, to have a well-trained retirement specialist and a staff that's going to be there with you along life's journey, well, why don't you contact us right now? It's easy to do. All you got to do is log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, click on the Let's Get Started button, or call the toll-free number on your screen. Do it today, TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's program. We have certainly enjoyed being with you. You remember, though, between now and next week when we see each other again, if all else fails, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.